Hello, Internet, and welcome to PHYST. No, it's not an angry thing at all. It's just a friendly conversation. This is an acronym, PHYST. It means, Pastor, have you seen this? So you send us an Internet video, something you've seen on your TikTok feed, something that relates to God, the Bible, Christianity, problem of evil, questions we have about religion, and we comment on it, we the pastors of AC3. If you've got something you'd like to send us, please send it to this address you see on the screen, social@ac3.org, and we'd be happy to comment on it, and we'll get a conversation going. And hopefully this helps you understand Christianity better, and maybe to understand the cohesiveness and the coherence of the Christian worldview better. Comment and like and subscribe, because we will absolutely get a conversation going with you if you comment on these videos. So without further ado, let's see what's going on with this video that someone sent in about cussing. Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because in the scripture says, do not curse your neighbor. Now, cursing isn't like F this, F that, because an F word here can mean something in a different language, right? It's your intent on how you're using it. I have to change now because God put me in a place for me to be speaking.
Right. Can I tell you one story? So you know the moment where Peter denies Jesus 3 times, right?
Before
and I
the
can
rooster
pull
crows, yeah.
Yeah. And 3 times people come up to him, do you know Jesus? You were just with him. I saw you with him. You're a Jew, like you have to be with him. And he says 3 times, no, I don't know him. No, I don't know him. The 3rd time it says that Peter curses and says, I do not know this man. So in the moment where he was trying to separate himself from Jesus and no longer identify as a follower of Jesus, he cursed. He used some sort of foul language. And that's what really got me in saying, when I do use foul language, as annoying as it is, when I do, I'm separating myself from the character of Jesus.
I make a vow that today's the last day, I swear.
What do you think about cussing?
Cussing?
Yeah.
So, well, this raises a lot of issues, doesn't it? Okay, so first of all, he gives a nod to this, that language obviously is culturally bound, right? So what I consider to be foul language means absolutely nothing to a first century Jew. So when Peter curses at his denial of Jesus, we should probably first of all take the scripture at its word when he says he curses. So it wasn't like he said a bad word. Like, you know, we joke that they're 4-letter words. Can you imagine? I don't even know. Like, I've studied some Greek and almost no Hebrew, but I don't know what would be considered 4-letter words. Like, the off-color words that can't be used in mixed company. I don't even know what they have. I'm pretty sure every language has them. But when it says Peter curses, I think it means just that, including the verse that he references in the Old Testament, don't curse your neighbor. So to curse is literally to condemn someone or to call down a spiritual hex in some sense on a person. So probably when we damn someone in our language, that is probably a curse. When we say go to hell, that is a curse, because it's a curse of a negative consequence that we want to invoke on someone. We're calling it down out of the ether, out of the spiritual realm, and we're throwing it at a person. That's a curse. And so, I think that what we typically call foul language, or the 4-letter words, can be representatives of curses, because we are calling on it for a negative consequence to be thrown at someone. And I think to the extent that Jesus expanded the definition of the murder commandment when he says, when someone cries in their heart, raka, against their neighbor, that's a curse. And so to that extent, yes, our foul language is a violation of those scriptural injunctions. And now she goes further. She says, every time we curse, we separate ourselves from Jesus. Well, I think if we sin with our mouths, yes, all sin is separation. So what I wouldn't do is make some sort of special category for when I pronounce a curse on my neighbor through whatever language I use. I could use perfectly appropriate words, by the way, use none of the 4-letter words, and pronounce a curse on my neighbor. And I think then I have condemned myself. I have fallen under the broader definition of the murder commandment that Jesus exposes in the Sermon on the Mount. And so then I brought myself under the condemnation of it. But I wouldn't say there's some sort of special condemnation there. It's simply sinful. So then the question is, to what extent can the off-color words, the four-letter words, be used and not be considered cursing and fall under the general condemnation of raka, murder, heart murder, as Jesus defined it? Well, this maybe gets me in some hot water. I don't think that using certain four-letter words per se necessarily violates that, because I think the person in the video is correct that the primary issue is the cursing. So you should do not curse your neighbor. So there are some times when a particular four-letter word in my little world will sometimes be, in appropriate context, the most perfect metaphor and therefore edifying. And that gets to the edifying either through its humor, through its sardonic usage, or the emphasis that it lays on a particular sentence. In those contexts, certain rough words, let's call them rough words, are not curses. And so I think that there's subtlety then to apply to our use of language. But the apostle's very, he's very strident about this in, I think it's Ephesians chapter 4. Let no cursing come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building one another up. So edifying speech needs to be no inappropriate or rough language, he says, or coarse joking, I think is the phrase, or how it's translated. So that does put puts hedges around our use of language, so rather than rough joking or cursing, what our emphasis on, our focus should be on building up, and his word is edifying. Say what is edifying. Now, can it possibly be that a classic swear word could be used in an edifying way? I think the answer to that is yes. So, and that might put it in the comments if you disagree with me on that. But I do think that it's not per se a violation of the cursing prohibition in Scripture. But nevertheless, I think Scripture is very clear that our words, they speak life or they speak death. And our words really, really matter. And so we should be circumspect about the language that we use so that it is always edifying, that it always builds up our neighbor. And we can be very careless with our language sometimes. But in terms of the very obvious violations of this particular command, I think that we should be very clear about that to let our anger cause us to call down curses on our neighbor using choice four-letter words or not. This is a violation of is it the sixth commandment? Seventh commandment. The seventh commandment, to not murder. Is it the seventh commandment? Now you need to put that in the comments. Correct the pastor on which commandment is do not murder, okay? Is it 6 or 7? But yeah, so there's my take. That's my hot take on this video about cursing. I'd like to know your thoughts. Put them in the comment section and we will engage. Until next time, we'll see you here on PHYST.